but I was obviously hit in the head with 4,160 volts of electricity. The
Okay.
electricity actually entered the top of my head right here, and
Hmm.
it blew the back of my neck out. And they ended
Holy
up telling me
crap.
that if it was over like, a hair to the left or to the right, that I would have bled out on the spot. Like I would have died right there and then. When I've said it on my social media, just because we're men, it don't make you weak to go and talk to somebody, a therapist or whoever, a friend, mom, dad, whatever. Get those feelings out, be done with it. You're gonna feel 100 times better. It's so much weight lifted off of your shoulders, really, is what it is.
Aloha, and welcome to the Sick Burn Podcast, where we explore the bright side to life's darkest moments. Today, we're honored to welcome John Pendleton. John is more than a dedicated blue-collar worker, husband, and father. He survived 4,160 volts to the head, leaving severe burns. He then used that harrowing workplace accident and transformed it into a source of inspiration. Through social media messages, his podcast, and speaking, John shares powerful stories that resonate with resilience and recovery. His journey from the depths of immense physical and emotional pain to becoming a beacon of hope on social media has touched so many lives. Join us as we delve into John's profound insights and celebrate his unyielding spirit. Please enjoy this inspiring session and the wisdom of John Pendleton. John, thank you so much for taking your time today. We've been trying to work at this to get it connected, and I found you, going through social media, and you were talking about one of your guests, Tristan, and
Yeah.
holy crap, man, that was insane. Even as a burn survivor myself, I was like, holy crap, like, what is this conversation like? And it really inspired me. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that podcast that you did with him, because I think that was just incredible.
Tristan is just an amazing person, which we've done 2 episodes with him. One, he talks about he's a suicide survivor. He attempted, and just the biggest heart on this kid. And he had a very rough childhood. He was a foster child. He went through a lot of trauma and decided that he wanted to take his life. And he ended up surviving and is now who wanted to spread the message to don't don't do suicide. Don't attempt it. Don't even think about
Right.
it.
Dang.
And he didn't have really any following on any social media, just a small following.
Mhm.
And we reached out to him. We talked to him and he came on the podcast and we put up a couple shorts. And Tristan is awesome because, like I was just talking to you off the air, how when I started doing social media, you were waiting for like the hate comments. And we put him up and I wanted to give him, the best episode, the best publicity we could, and not let all the people talk all the shit they want. So we turned the comments off and he told us, "Turn them back on. Let them talk all they want. I don't care." And so
Wow.
we did, and it is amazing how there's so many good people in the world that went right to his page, they support him,
Mhm.
and now his following's growing. He's able to start doing more videos, sending his message out there and helping others because there's so many people now reaching out to him because of his story that they're working through their issues. They've decided not to go that route. So it's a beautiful thing to see. And Tristan is a great friend now. We love him to death. And, I just want to see the best for him.
That's incredible. But I think this is a perfect place to also turn it back to you, man, because as a burn survivor myself, I know how hard it was to get through all the recovery, to be in the hospital, to do the bandage changes and all that stuff. And I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see you and talking about Tristan, and I'm like, "Dang, this is a burn survivor. You're putting it all out there, man. And you have so much courage, just showing how beat up you were and all that recovery. Like, I was way too nervous to do it. I still am, frankly. But like, let's go back. Let's talk about what happened with you in your accident. From what I've heard, it's nothing short of amazing. And then to see you now, I almost don't believe it." So let's talk about, yeah, let's talk
I
about the
don't either. I
day
don't
of.
believe it either, so you're not the only one.
Right. So yeah, let's talk about it. I know you don't really remember a lot, but like what happened
Yeah.
maybe the day leading into it and then post.
So I can remember the night before that day, and the night before, my daughter, who was 9 at the time, and my son just turned 1, and my daughter was bugging me for months before this that she wanted a go-kart. "I want a go-kart, dad. I want a go-kart." So the day before this happened to me, I actually went out and off Facebook Market, bought a go-kart locally, brought it home, put it in my shop, and then it was a school night, so then Tiffany was like, "Let's not do it tonight. Let's give it to her tomorrow." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do that." Not
Okay.
knowing that tomorrow I wasn't gonna come home. And,
Wow.
yeah, I went to work, and I was a rock miner. So I went to work, I was the welder, mechanic, and operator of some of these machines. Well, I was doing maintenance on one of these machines that runs off of 4,160 volts. That's what it operates off of.
Damn.
And while doing maintenance, I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't remember anything else from the day, but I was obviously hitting the head with 4,160 volts of electricity. And I get the question a lot, was it arc flash? It was not arc flash. The
Okay.
electricity actually entered the top of my head right here, and
Hmm.
it blew the back of my neck out. I mean, it put like a good 3-inch gash, like a check mark almost, in the back of my
Wow.
neck. And they ended up
Holy
telling me
crap.
that if it was over like, a hair to the left or to the right, I forget what direction, that I would have bled out on the spot. Like I would have died right there and then.
Damn, man, that's crazy. Or the
It's
opposite,
nuts.
you might have been like the Flash or something. I don't know.
Yo, I'm
Could have
still
it.
now listen, I can run and swim a lot faster now without my ear on
Really?
this side, less drag, little aerodynamic.
That's amazing, man. So, okay, holy shit, that's insane. You get knocked out. I saw a little bit of your wife talking about what she experienced, right? She gets this call. She's like, "That's not real." Hangs up. They're like, "No, this is real." You get put into, I'm assuming, this medically induced coma similar to what I was. Let's talk a little bit about that. What do you remember from that time?
What, the coma or before it?
No, like I guess we're at the coma now, right? Because you don't remember even getting into the hospital, right?
I don't remember anything. Yeah, I don't remember anything from that day, but I actually on my podcast, I actually had the fireman who saved me on it,
Wow.
and he talks about his experience coming to save me. Yeah, they had to trauma hawk me from the site to the first hospital, and he said that I stood up and tried to walk away.
Wow.
I don't remember any of that, but he was like, "You did. We had to strap you down to the table to put you in the helicopter."
Holy shit, man.
From there, they brought me to the first hospital, and that hospital ended up telling my wife, they handed her my wedding ring, and they pretty much told her that, like, "You should plan for a funeral." And then they told her that there's really nothing else they can do for me here at this hospital. So they put me back in the helicopter and they flew me down to Jackson Memorial Hospital at Ryder Trauma Center in Miami. And that is where they saved my life.
Wow.
I owe them everything. I couldn't have asked for better doctors and nurses, like just the most amazing people.
That's incredible, man. We really don't think about it too often. I think most normal people, where you're going to go if you're in an emergency, you assume you're going to this hospital or that one. It's like the few that you maybe remember, but it's such a big difference on where you end up. Like I went to University Medical Center and that's where, they saved my life and I was right into that burn unit. But eventually I got transferred at UCSD and I think that's where I credit that place as like where I got the most healing just because I felt like they're just leading edge in burn care and burn survivor and all that stuff. But let's talk about, because we were talking before off air about what we remember from our coma and our
Oh
dreams.
yeah.
Because for me, that's pretty much all I remember from the first month and a half. Like my accident was September 7th. Yours was, what was it, September
Oh,
18th,
it was
right?
yeah, it was the 18th, September 18th, 2019.
That's great. September's what a bad month. I hate September now. Be
I
extra
delete
careful.
September right from my history.
Right? Like, I just want to skip over that month. But
Yeah.
you got to be, yeah, I'm definitely going to be extra careful, not crossing in front of any black cats, throwing salt over my shoulder, not stepping in any cracks, all the above, right? But I had these horrific and crazy dreams I couldn't escape from. It was just nightmare after nightmare. What did you kind of experience in this coma?
The same thing. It was literally a nightmare after nightmare, and, first, how long were you in a coma for?
So I don't know the exact time, but the first thing I really remember after I got brought into the ICU or the ER, I knew it was September, but the first time I actually remember somebody asking me this, I was like, hey, what date is it? And I thought it'd been a few weeks, maybe like September 17th or whatever, right? And they're like, oh no, it's October 15th. I was like, holy shit.
Oh my god.
I've been out for, yeah, a month and some change. So that was the first kind of shock. It really was like, man, I lost a bunch of time here. But yeah, that's about what I remember.
I was curious because 'cause I've had a lot of people ask me, do you remember, like, did it feel longer or shorter in your own head? And my answer to that is, it really that's something I really never thought of, like, it never felt longer or shorter, you were just stuck in your head.
Right.
But I was in a coma for 9 days.
Wow.
That was plenty for me, so I can't imagine going over 9 days. I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Where we carry around this brain and we carry around our thoughts every day, but to be just kind of stuck in it, right? And you're just like in these
Yeah.
dreams and your mind's doing whatever your mind's doing. I know this got to sound terrible for a lot of people out there, and it was, but you have these moments too of a little bit of some good dreams. Like I remember hearing my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time; she was just my girlfriend. But I remember hearing her voice and her saying things to me. I remember probably some debridement sessions, where they, for everybody out there who doesn't know, it's like where they scrub off all the dead skin. And I remember hearing some of the nurses chit chatting in my dreams. I just couldn't wake up to see them. And in that moment, one in particular, I was like on a conveyor belt, basically just getting like plucked and chopped up almost like I was like a slab of beef about to get wrapped up to get sent to a grocery store, or something like
That's
that. But
wild.
yeah, I don't know. What do you remember any of your dreams specifically?
Yeah, so I think it's just crazy how your brain works. So I don't remember anything like waking up or anything like that. Now, hearing people, I couldn't hear what they were saying or anything like that, but their voice, I would recognize who that person was, and then they would appear, like you were saying, the nurses would appear in my dreams or nightmares, and then that person would be in there for, a amount of time and was gone. It's crazy how your brain works because a lot of my dreams and nightmares were hospital settings, and I had no clue that I was even hurt.
Right.
So
Wow.
I was having these just wild and crazy dreams of like at one of them I was strapped to a bed and I was in this huge room. There was nothing there but just me in a bed and my arms were strapped to it. Now in real life, my arms were strapped to a bed because I kept trying to pull out my the trach.
Trach. Yep.
So in real life, I was strapped to the bed, and now I'm in my nightmare, and I'm strapped to this bed, and my wife was just standing off in the distance behind these like glass sliding doors,
Hmm.
and I just sat there and I would scream for her and yell for her, and she would never say anything. And then in this nightmare, this woman came in and like started strapping my, arms down tighter, and she wouldn't say a word, and I'm just yelling at her, yelling for Tiffany, and then finally Tiffany turns around, just looks at me and walks away.
Oh my
So now I'm
God.
like, "Oh my god," now I'm freaking out, and then just like that, I'm in a completely different nightmare,
Hmm.
and I had, like, one after another of these. One, I was on a table that, like, slid back and forth, and it, like, slid into this bubble, and when I slid into this bubble, I couldn't breathe.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
was, like, gasping for air, and I couldn't catch my breath, and right there, I'm like, "I'm dying, I'm dying."
Yep.
And then it would switch to another dream. The 2 most confusing things to happen to me in my coma, and it's always I feel crazy when I say this, I
Sure.
do.
I'm laughing because I already have a
No,
story like that as well, so I'm right here with you basically.
I
But
do.
yeah.
I feel crazy when I say it, and it's because so there was 2 times in my coma where I was having these nightmares and dreams, and like a light switch, I was standing in all blackness. And the best way I can describe this, and this is like 100% like how it was if you've watched Stranger Things,
Mhm.
where she's standing in the all blackness, that's what it was. And I
Wow.
was just standing there and I just looking off and there's nothing but blackness. So right there, I was like, what is happening? Like now, am I in a dream? Because this is the most wild dream I've ever had. Like I've never had a dream where there's nothing. And then, like just like I said, snap of a finger, I was back. Like I didn't even leave. Like I was back into that nightmare. Like I never left.
Right.
And then while in that nightmare, it was like your brain is processing what just happened. And I don't know how long after that it happened again. And to find out those are the 2 times that I coded and died on the table.
Oh, that's insane. I was gonna ask you about that because I definitely had one of those moments too where I was like, "Oh, I'm dead." Yeah, let's talk about it. So you code in that moment. Do you think you are dead in that moment?
No, I was so confused. It was the most confusing even to this day when I really, like, sit there and think on it. It's, like, the most confusing thing ever because you're literally dreaming, and in my mind, I thought that I was having nightmares in bed, sleeping next to my wife. It was nighttime. That's what I thought. So then when that happened, I was like, "Man, that was the most what just happened? Like, why did that happen?"
Right. Like, man, that was a scary dream. That messed me up.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And towards the end of what I'm gonna say is towards the end of my coma, all these nightmares kept happening, 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 and then I finally realized, like, you're just dreaming, like, you're just having bad nightmares, that's what it is, these aren't real because like we said before this, how real all of that felt.
Oh, definitely. You could like I literally couldn't tell the difference between
No.
life and what I was dreaming. Felt like I was
Yeah.
in it. And it's interesting you say that, man, because I was literally just having this conversation last night. There was a specific dream, nightmare, probably more of a nightmare where I really thought like this is it. I'm dead. And it's it's funny because it's so cliche to be like your whole life flashes before your eyes kind of thing and it did and it didn't. It wasn't like one of those things where like you see everything, but I'm on this almost like roller coaster ride for one. There's just a single track. There's a bar in the middle of the desert, basically, like an old saloon. I open like I'm on the conveyor belt thing. It pushes me through the doors. And as I get through the doors, it's like an 8-bit video game. All these like pixel looking things and there's just fire. There's like no ground, there's nothing underneath it, but you just look down if you can, and it's just like blackness and fire everywhere, right? And I knew I went into the hospital. Like I knew I was messed up in some way, but I'm going through it, and then I start seeing what I think is like the devil or demons or something like that. But in like an 8-bit video game. So in some ways that sounds maybe less scary. I was terrified. I was like, holy crap, like what's going on? But and all of a sudden, I turn a corner and it's so cheesy. Again, I think it is cliche to say it wasn't like it wasn't like the white light you see in movies, but I was
Yeah.
approaching an ending. I knew that there was a tunnel that I was exiting. And then there was this moment of me of like pure terror. Like I'm terrified. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then there was this, I started thinking about in this moment, I had this thought of like, was I a good person? Yeah, I tried to be the best person I could. Was I perfect? No, you weren't perfect, but you try to be a good person. You try to work as hard as you could. You try to take care of people and be as nice to people as you can. What else could you do? And then there was this relief of just like, all right, I was at peace. And I was like, okay, you're just going to accept that your life's over, you're done. And I don't know if I coded in that moment or whatnot, but there was this idea of just like your life's over and you're done. And I don't think I'll ever forget that dream because it felt so real. It felt like I was strapped in that chair going down that single track roller coaster and that my life had ended. And it was the wildest dream. So
That's
anyways,
crazy.
yeah, it's crazy that you had a very similar moment, but it's
Yeah.
also interesting to me that you didn't feel like my life's done.
Yeah, no, I was just completely baffled of what was going on. And then, like I said, I was back into another dream, so I was like, "Oh, well, alright, well, we're back to dreaming, maybe it's just all in my mind."
Right, right.
Now thinking about that, it's terrifying to think about that, like, alright, you were dying, you were dead.
Yeah.
But now I think one of the most terrifying things that I experienced in my coma was at one point is when I realized, like, you're sleeping, you're in a dream, kick Tiffany because 'cause you're in bed with her, just kick her. She'll get mad, and she'll wake you up.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I was like, "Go ahead, kick her." And then, there was nothing happening, so I'm like,
Right, right.
"What's happening?" Because now I can't even do anything, and I'm like, I'm stuck."
Yeah.
And that's when it set in, I was like, "I'm trapped inside my own mind right now, and there's nothing I can do to get out." And that right there was, like, just so scary that I had no idea what to do. And then finally is when they woke me up out of the coma, and when I woke up, my first thought and I had a trach in my throat, so I couldn't talk. So the first thing I did was I tried to get out of bed, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I You're trying to talk, so they gave me Tiffany had a whiteboard, and on the whiteboard, I was like, "I have to get up. I have to get ready for work. I'm gonna be late, and I'm not getting chewed out today." She was like, "You
Yeah.
you you haven't been to work in, like, 2 weeks, you've been in a coma." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "You got electrocuted at work." And I was like, "No, I didn't." "Yeah, you're in the hospital." I'm like, "Oh, shit."
So you just didn't believe her, like, you just flat out were like, "No, that didn't happen."
Yeah, I was like, "No." I was like, what are you talking?" I was so like, the amount of confusion because you just came out of a coma, which was mind blowing right there, and then you wake up in a hospital, and they're like, "Yeah, you've been here for 2 weeks. You were electrocuted." And I'm like, What?" But
Yeah.
I didn't even remember Tiffany when I first woke up either.
Really? And how long had you guys been married or together at that point?
We were married for, like, 2 years, but we were together for, like, 5 or 6 years before that.
Wow, and you had no remember like, you looked at her and you're like,
Yeah, she even
"Who is
asked me, like,
she?"
"Do you know who I am?" And I shook my head, "No." I was like, "No." And then she showed me pictures of my kids and was like, "Do you know who they are?" And I was like, "No."
Wow.
And then you know how in the hospital in the room, they have the calendar where the nurse comes in, writes her name and all
Yep.
that?
Yep, yep.
So, I'm down in the ICU. Well, she's extremely upset. She ended up staying as long as she could until they kicked her out. So she left, and I just laid in bed, awake, trying to process what I'm doing and why I'm here. And I kept staring at that calendar, and then it just clicked. I was like, "Man, I know that date. Like, why do I know that date?" It was my wife's birthday the next day.
Wow.
And then I was
Oh,
like, "That's
man.
Tiffany's birthday." I was like, "That's Tiffany, yeah, my wife." So she came in the next day, and I wrote happy birthday, and right when she walked in, she was like, "Oh my god, you remember?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, you didn't remember me yesterday." I was like, "No, I know who you are."
I
"I
mean
got you. I know who you are now. We're good."
That's just I mean, that's mind blowing for me, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's maybe that's a bad pun, sorry, but like it's but okay, so a couple of things. One, I want to just kind of talk to you or just kind of comment on the being trapped in your mind is one of the literally, it is one of the craziest things you can ever experience. Because you're right. I had those moments too where I was like, there was a certain point I was like, maybe I'm just dreaming. And then you can't wake up and you're like, why can't I wake up? Why can't I get out of here? Why does my body move or work or whatever? Because I was strapped down too. And at some point in my crazy nightmares, I was able, almost 70% burned, able to flip myself out of the bed and land on the ground. And so that was a big, mistake or whatever happened. It was just like, big no no. They throw me back in the bed and then just being stuck in my dreams. Even after that, I couldn't even remember, right? And so that was such a trip. So, it's very rare I hear somebody that has that same experience. So it's nice to be in good company. But then to wake up and then also you had this shocking realization too of like, holy shit, I know this person or whatever. I didn't have that where I didn't like forget my girlfriend, but family members. And like the thing for like, I don't know if was your wife fully in cap and gown and mask and everything when you were in your hospital room?
No.
No.
So this
Okay.
is Yeah, well, you're the same thing. It was before COVID.
Right, right.
So before
But not
everyone really had to be completely masked up. But I don't think that she was in cap and gown and everything at that time.
So for whatever reason, mine. So everybody, as far as I remember, was in cap, gown, mask. So even though I could like hear people's voices, I could recognize it. I didn't know it was them. So it was like I was like could kind of tell it was my dad, could kind of tell it was my mom, but like I couldn't really tell, and so that kind of messed with me too. But anyways, it was just like the weirdest thing, and then you have this realization of like, dang, I lost time. Holy crap! What starts coming in your mind now? You realize that you've been in this coma, you were injured at work. What are some of the thoughts you start thinking about now with this realization that's happened?
I know I did not realize how severe my injuries were at that time because, I bet you were too, doped up on fentanyl and Dilaudid and
Yeah.
morphine and whatever they could give you to numb you.
How much pain were you still in, even with all that?
So when I woke up out of the coma, I personally right now, I can't remember feeling anything.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible,
I
man.
didn't feel like I was in any pain.
That's
So I didn't the
incredible,
whole, debrising and all that, they did that when I was completely out. I don't remember anything, like that. I didn't have
man.
an experience, and it kills me when I have other burn survivors talk about it because I'm like, I can't imagine having to be scrubbed down and having that go through that pain. And they're like, "Oh, you don't remember that?" And I'm like, "I don't remember any of that."
Yeah, you
And
lucky bastard. No, I'm just because I remember
Whatever.
because I remember a lot, and I can
Yeah,
tell you,
it kills me to hear that because I can't imagine going through that pain, dude.
no, I think it's fortunate for you, man. Like truthfully, I because I remember even with being on the ketamine and the Dilaudid and the fentanyl all at the same time, I just remember being in the most amount of pain I've ever been in my life. And I played sports growing up. I was definitely a bruiser in a lot of ways, but I had never and hopefully never will ever feel pain like that. It was just nonstop. Didn't matter how much drugs I was on or what kind of drugs. I was always on some crazy amount of pain until I was almost out of the hospital, where they would give me the Dilaudid and I'd have relief for like, I don't know, maybe a half an hour.
Yep. Yep.
You're like, not me though.
No, 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 no. So, like I said, when I woke up, I don't remember feeling much. I think I don't know. Maybe it was because I was so disoriented in what was even happening around me that maybe just my brain processed it out and kicked that to the side and waited for that. Because once I got out of the ICU, I think that's when I really started to feel a lot of the pain. And
Mm.
yeah, when they woke me up after like the third day, they were trying to tell me that, uh, which I hate when people tell me that I can't do something, pisses me off. Eh,
Yeah.
they end up telling me like I just know there's a huge chance that you're not gonna walk. And I was like, why do you say that? And they said because the amount of voltage you took through your top of your head, it more likely has fused your spine somewhere, and you're probably not gonna walk again.
Wow.
And I was so mad because blue collar worker,
Hmm.
loved riding my Harley, doing things with my kids. And it just ran through my head like, no, there's no possible. You're not gonna tell me that. So I got really mad, and they were like, "Listen, that's just what happens, and we apologize." And I was like, "Fuck that!" I was like, "Go get the OT."
Right.
And they did. They went and got him, and he came down. And he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to get out of this bed." And he was like,
Wow.
Just know that if you're not capable of it, don't try it. Don't get upset." And I was like, "No, I can get up. I can walk." And they were like, "Okay."
Yeah. Yeah.
So they turned me out of the bed, and I stood up, and when I stood up, their faces he was like, "Oh god," and I was like, "I told you I could walk," and I started walking, and they were like, "Hey, whoa, 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 you're all hooked up
Wow.
to everything, you can't go anywhere," and I was like, "Bring it with me, we're walking."
What? Okay, this is I've heard a lot of burn survivor stories over the last few years, and thank you. You're the first burn survivor we had on the show.
Oh,
But it's like I
now I'm
couldn't.
honored, bro, that's awesome.
Oh no, I'm honored. I mean, but also like I couldn't move at all. So I like wanted to. My hands were completely bandaged. I didn't know that I lost a bunch of my fingers. I had the trach in like you, so I couldn't say anything. But I couldn't move. The most I could do was just kind of lift up out of the bed. That was about the most I could do. And so There was nothing. And then I had fractured my back so bad. Then, after I was finally able to get into a position where I could walk, I could only take, even the first time they tried to help me, I could only stand. And then that was too painful and I had to lay back down. And again, my whole life, I've never thought I can't do anything, physically. I was like, yeah, no one's going to tell me what I can and can't do physically. Like, I'm going to be in charge of that. I'm going to push myself to go as far as I possibly can. So that was the weirdest thing ever. On top of like, you have these crazy nightmares and dreams, you wake up and all of a sudden your body doesn't work like it used to. It was such a trip. It's amazing that you were able to just get up and start walking. Were you surprised by what you were doing?
No, no, I was determined, so there was no like, "Oh, I can do this." No, I there was no doubt that I wasn't gonna be able to walk. In my head, there was no doubt.
Wow.
Like, I was determined to get up. But you have to think though, we are different on the injury because your body, you got a lot of burns on your body.
Yeah.
I didn't, so your nervous system and all that was damaged really bad where mine, I didn't get it on my body, so I can definitely, that's probably why you were more not moving so much at that time.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, yeah, that's definitely how it goes. I'm curious now, where does that determination come from? Like, did you always have that as a kid?
Yeah, I'm stubborn.
That's where it is.
If you ask my wife, it's like, I'm hard-headed, I don't listen to anybody, so that's probably where a lot of it stems from.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. But like, did your parents teach you this, or like, where does it come from? Just how you're raised, or just it was always in there in you?
Well, I come from, I just an old country boy. I'm from the backwoods of New Hampshire, middle of nowhere. My whole family's been blue collar their whole lives. I've seen my dad hit himself in the knee with a chainsaw, throw it on the ground, walk away.
Wow.
In my father, like we said this before, as men, I was taught that, boys don't cry. You suck it up, you keep going. So that was always my mentality growing up was, don't let it bug you, just keep pushing. And I've always had really, really good willpower. I think that has a lot to do with it. That I've had great willpower. So I always just push myself. And there's days that, I didn't want to do anything. And my biggest supporter is Tiffany.
Yeah.
If that day that I was like, I just want to lay here, she'd be like, no, no, get up. And it would piss me off, but she'd push me and push me and push me. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't I highly doubt I'd be here,
Wow.
like, hands down.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I agree with you. I didn't really, I thought mental health was like a thing other people dealt with. You know what I mean? I didn't think like I needed, I was like, hey, listen, hey, props to you if you need therapy, but that's never going to be something that I thought I needed. Right. And, I go through this accident and yeah, to your point, I don't know if I had the same willpower as you, but I just thought I could power through. If I work hard enough, if I just kind of suck it up, if I'm tough enough, I can make it through anything. And it's kind of how I got through most of my life. It's how I got through flight school. I was like, listen, no matter what, you just got to keep working harder than everybody. Maybe you're not going to be the smartest pilot. Maybe you're not going to be the best pilot ever, but you're going to practice and you're going to work so hard at this, you're not going to fail. And, all of a sudden I get in this thing, body's not working. I can't speak. I can't talk. I can't do anything for myself. And I'm like, shoot, the way I was talking to myself didn't work anymore. Did they try to force some type of mental health on you, like a psychologist or anything? Or where did you start
Yeah, and
transitioning maybe into being like, okay, maybe the way I talk to myself can be different?
well, in the hospital, yeah, they tried to, uh they have somebody there, which now we are amazing friends with her. We actually go to our hospital a lot and help out.
Were you open to it or were you like,
No, I was like, "Get out of my room." I mean, Tiffany, the first impression she made on Tiffany told her, "Take a hike."
oh God.
That's what happened is that I wanted nothing, she would come into the room, "Hey, you wanna talk?" And I'm like, What do you want me to talk about? Like, I'm
Right.
in the hospital. What is there to talk about?" And I was not a nice guy.
I don't blame you, man.
I
I get
It
it.
was hard, and I wanted nothing to do with that. It didn't take. It took all the way to, I would say, the first year, 2 years out of the hospital to wanna talk to somebody, to finally be, like, in my head, like, and with Tiffany saying it and, like, it's probably a good idea to go talk to someone. And when I first went to talk to my therapist, who I talk to now,
Mhm.
yeah, I wasn't 100% in it. You know, I'm like, "This is stupid. You're just gonna tell me what my issues are. I already know my issues. Why do I need to talk to you?" And then, he didn't give up. He kept pushing on me, and he's like, "Come on, open up if you wanna open up." Finally, I started just a little bit, little bit, little bit. Yeah, now, I mean, I push it on others that I talk to,
Yeah.
and I've said it on my social media. Just because we're men, it don't make you weak to go and talk to somebody, a therapist or whoever, a friend, mom, dad, whatever, because as we were younger, to be told to push all your feelings down, move on, move on. Yeah, you can, but there's gonna be one day where all them feelings are released, and it's gonna be bad. You're gonna lose your shit one day, and you don't need to do that. Get those feelings out, be done with it. You're gonna feel 100 times better. It's so much weight lifted off of your shoulders, really is what it is.
So true, man. Yeah, that dam will definitely burst. And yeah, I was just like you. I was pushing against my therapist. I was like, I don't need, like you're not gonna help me. There's no way you can possibly make me feel better about any of this. But yeah, to your point, you didn't give up on me and just asked a lot of questions. And now the way I think of it, it's like when you first start working out. You don't know what you're doing. You're like, how does this machine work? What's the correct form? How much weight should I do? But you have that one friend, or maybe you go to a trainer and they're like, well, hey, straighten your back, or this is how you use this machine. This is what this machine does. And so for me, it's like having somebody who's not so tied to you, who's on the outside, that can just give you an outside perspective, that third person perspective makes a huge difference. And so I'm like, it's like getting that trainer when you don't know how to workshop things in your head and what you're feeling because you don't, and we're not trained that way. I don't think a lot of us are taught how to do that, especially guys. And yeah, it's something that I never thought I would talk about publicly, but now it's something I always want to talk about publicly with people, especially if I feel like they're struggling with something. And I'm like, hey man, I could see you really having a hard time with this. Listen, I don't know if I'm going to be the best person to talk to, but there's probably somebody out there that will be for you, that will help you out a ton. So anyways, I just really appreciate you kind of bringing that up because it's something that I can relate to a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big thing that is not talked about enough, especially like you said, men.
Yeah,
It's just put as you're going to be a weak, you're going to be, you're not much of a man if you go to talk to a therapist. Well, that's not true.
agreed. Agreed. And yeah, and it's something that I definitely had to learn. So where was the moment, I guess, going through all this? Now you're back home, you're recovering, you're maybe going to therapy now. Where is a mindset shift for you? Like when do you all of a sudden think, all right, well, I got to carry on. My life's different now. Do you have a moment of breaking too where you're like, God, I like lost so much and you had those hard days? Like, do you have one of those moments you're just kind of in the dirt?
Yeah. So, I mean, all right, going back to the hospital, my mindset, and I would ask, I don't know if you did this, but I know you were talking about how you kind of would prepare, you would talk yourself through stuff.
Hmm.
In the hospital, I did that all the time. And it was every surgery. Every surgery, I would ask my doctor, like, listen, tell me the truth. Don't bullshit me. Tell me up straight. What kind of pain am I going to be in when I get out of this surgery? And they'd be like, oh, it's not going to. I'm like, no, no, no. I want, like, what is it? Is it going to be bad or good?
Right, right.
And they're like, oh, okay. Well, it's going to really hurt. Okay. Now I know. And now I prepare myself mentally. And
Yeah.
that's what I would do. I would tell myself, and every time I'd go into that surgery, you're getting ready where they inject you and here you go, you're gonna start to fall asleep. To get to that point, I would literally tell myself, "Do it, do it, do it, do it," and just keep telling myself that there's no other option. You have to do this. Like, you can't say no, you just gotta do it and shut up. And that's what would happen is I would push myself to the point where you're laying there and then they stick that needle into the thing and you're done. And then I'd wake up and I'd already be kind of prepared in my mind, like, "Oh, damn, this sucks. I can already feel the pain coming." So, all the surgeries I did, now we talked about our ears.
Yeah, yeah. Because yeah, I could see it right now. Wait, before we get too far, just so we throw it out there, you've had about 30 surgeries, right?
Yeah, I've had about 30 surgeries.
Wow. Do you count like all the laser and everything in that too?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
just
do
because
too.
I think laser surgery is definitely considered. Now it's not surgery where they're cutting you open, but
Right. I call it like a
if no one has
procedure.
ever had laser for scars, then you have no clue the amount of pain that comes with that. Because, the way I tell people is like, "Hey, if you've ever watched, tattoo removal, like
Yep.
that laser, yeah, times that by like 1,000. That one doesn't go bzz, it goes ta 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 ta.
Yeah, yep.
You know, it's
It's
loud,
true.
bro, and it snaps. Like, the first thing they did when my doctor wanted to show me, like, what it will do, he was like, "I'll just show you, like, how it puts out the pattern." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." He turns around, he got a popsicle stick, and he hit the popsicle stick, and it burned holes in it, and I was like, "That's wood, dude." He was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "You're gonna put that on my skin?" And he goes, "Yes, it has to penetrate the scar, it has to break it up." And I was like, "Yeah, but it burned holes in wood." And he, "Yeah."
Yeah, I know when they just started. I mean, maybe this sounds bad, but it's true. Like I was having so many surgeries back to back to back. Like I couldn't even tell when it was with lasers and everything. I say like about 50 surgeries and procedures. I'm somewhere in there. I think I passed it, right? But yes, the laser they would just kind of do on certain areas because of the burns and the contractures and everything. They had to like loosen up those areas or reduce the scarring. So that was like the least of my worries when I first started getting it. I was like, yeah, no big deal. Now it's a different story, right? Because I don't have the same amount of pain as I had before. So when I go to get that done, it hurts a lot. But
Yeah.
man, yeah, it's crazy watching it because you can smell it too. They have that
Yeah.
suction because it's burning your skin basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing.
So we were talking about the ears too, kind of getting back to
Yeah.
that. So yeah, so I lost my ear on the right side,
Me
and
too.
this, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're another
So that's right.
similarity here, which is just
Yep.
crazy. But what did you think? Like you see yourself, you don't have this ear. Did they start talking about options for you? And what did you think? Like, shit, man, I don't have an ear. How am I gonna go and do this? Like, I don't know. What are you thinking?
That's not how mine kinda went. So when I woke up, when I was in the hospital for the first, I would say when I was awake, for the first, like, week,
Hmm.
Tiffany wouldn't let me see myself,
Yep.
and that is because,
Yep.
which you can't find any, I have those pictures, but you can't find any on my social media because they're so graphic, that the burn went to, like, just right at the side of my eye right here,
Mm,
which it never scarred all this, it just scarred back. That was, like, fall that skin was, like, falling off, and then my ears were burned so bad, so she didn't wanna show me, she was like, "I don't wanna show you what you look like yet until you're completely, like, comprehend what's happening."
yeah.
So when I first seen myself in a mirror, I was like, "Oh, damn," and my right ear was black.
Yeah.
They cut the top of my left ear off to save it. That ended up fusing to the skin here now, so I can't even, like, pull my ear away, it's completely stuck to my head.
Wow.
And then this one was so black where they were like, "Hey, every surgery, we're also gonna try to take a piece of that ear off to save it. So when you're going for your head surgery, we're gonna do that." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Well, like, the first one I came out of, I was like, "Oh my god, the amount of pain I'm in for my ear." And they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah, ear pain is very, very bad because of how many nerves are in it." I was like, they're like, "How's your head feel?" I was like, My head doesn't even hurt." Which at that point, now you've probably seen the video of my skull.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
When they unwrapped my head and I could see my skull now, I was like, "Wait, what is that?" And the doctor, he's like, "That's your skull." And I was like, "Wait, that's my, like, real skull?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's your real skull?"
I mean, but
And then I
it's not something you hear
started
every
touching
day.
it. Oh, they're getting so mad. They're like, "Don't touch it." And I'm like, Bro, who else can say you got to touch your own skull? I'm going to." And I
That's
did.
crazy.
I
Yeah.
had to.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I mean, it's just so out of your brain. Like your brain can't even comprehend
yeah,
what's going on. You're like, I'm seeing a part of my body I shouldn't see. Like,
exactly.
yeah, I swear I saw some of my bones, but like everywhere for me, like there was blood. And so like it was just a trip, you know? Like I look at him like, what is this? Is this a movie? You know, at the moments where maybe I wasn't really thinking about the pain too much, you're in
It doesn't look
such
real.
it's yeah, it doesn't look real at all. And it's even more unbelievable like it's on your body. So
Yes, it's you. You're not
yeah,
looking at someone else, you're looking, like, in the mirror, and you're like, "That's not real."
right. You're like, I'm gonna wake up, or I'm gonna like, this is gonna stop. Like, I'm gonna just, yeah, wake
Yeah.
up from this nightmare or dream or whatever. And it doesn't stop. And you're like, holy shit, man. So I would have done the same thing as you. Are you freaked out? Are you scared about it? Like, what are you thinking other than just like pure, like, holy shit?
No, I never had any fear after, looking at myself or anything like that in the hospital because of how I look or what the injury was, and that's because once I seen it, I was like, "Well, that's it. There's no going back. You can't change anything. This is it. Like, this is reality."
Yeah.
And just have to keep going forward with it. So
Hmm.
for my ear, they were cutting pieces off, and by the second time they did it, it hurt so bad that I told 'em, I was like, "Hey, when I go in for the 3rd time, I want you just to cut my ear off." And they were like,
Wow.
"What?" And they were like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, just cut it off. I don't need it." So I
Holy
said,
shit,
"Okay."
man.
So they
Yeah.
did. They cut it off, and I mean, it boom, like that, it eliminated that pain. And, I still don't have it, and I don't need it. I wear sunglasses, I can use headphones, I can hear out of it, so,
That's
it's
amazing.
it's all good.
The other thing I'm noticing about you, man, is that you just have like this happy go lucky attitude about it and then like this positivity. And you can still laugh at yourself. Is one of the things I think that helped me get through my time in the hospital and through all these years. My sense of humor, I think, saved me in so many ways. And I see that in you. Were you always like this? Were you always like kind of just joking around and did it change at all after your accident?
I've always had a good sense of humor, and I've always liked to laugh, make others laugh, just have that good time. Being in the hospital, coming out and everything, I haven't been happy 100%. I definitely went through my depression,
Yeah.
but in the hospital, I think joking and dark humor is really what helped me push through the hospital. I played jokes on my doctors, I played jokes on the nurses.
Me too.
They would come in and I'd be, like, naked, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, put clothes." Why? You guys have all seen me butt naked, like, 100 times already. Why does it matter?
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
I had one nurse, and I felt bad, but then I didn't feel bad at the same time. I had this nurse for, like, a couple weeks, and she was amazing, and it was her last day before she graduated to an RN. And, the one thing that she didn't get to do was change the inner cannula on a trach. So my doctor was like, "Oh, you can just do John's and learn from there." Because in the hospital, the person who was changing my trach was not a nurse, it was Tiffany.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They ended
That's
up teaching Tiff
crazy.
how to do it because I would have to have it changed out so often, and I ended up well, alright, let me tell you one part, I'll get onto another one of the trach.
Okay,
But
okay.
the nurse, she never changed one, so she went to go pull it out, and when she went to go pull it out, I went, "Oh," and started doing that, and she lost it. She started crying, she didn't know what to do,
No.
she panicked, and then I just started laughing, and then she
Oh
was
my
so
god.
mad. She's like, "You're an asshole," and I was like, "Yeah, but."
I
I was like,
needed
"It was a
that.
joke, it was funny." Like, I
Yeah.
didn't think everybody else thought it was hilarious, she didn't think it
Yeah, I had moments like that too. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, did all kind of crazy things in there, and there's probably a few stories I don't even know if I want to say yet. But there was a few times I definitely messed with some people when I shouldn't have. But it's what I needed to do to just get through the hospital and just get through and like keep some sanity, and like keep some positivity in my life because I was going crazy in there, and I was like, man, if I am I ever getting out of here, and am I ever getting better? But you just start doing what you need to do to survive. Also, like my wife was doing a bunch of things too. I don't think she was changing my trach, but she was doing some other things in there that, you never ask maybe anybody to do for you, but our wives or whatever had to do
Oh,
it.
yeah,
And
dude, in the ICU, and alright, we'll get personal. We'll get real personal real quick for you.
all right. Lay it on me.
So in the ICU, you know, and now as a man, the most awkward I've had some awkward times in the hospital, but the first one was in the ICU, waking up, starting to walk around, and in the ICU, there's no bathroom,
Right, right.
you know, and I had to shit, like, really
Okay.
bad, and they were like, "Just shit in the bed, you know, you need to lay down and just shit." I was like, "But I can get up and walk." They're like, "Yeah, but you can't leave." So I was like, "You just want me to shit while I'm laying here?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Oh my
I
god,
was like,
yeah.
"I don't know if I could do that." And they're like,
Right.
"Well, that's your only option, like, you don't have another option."
Uh-huh.
So I had to, and then I couldn't wipe my ass, so my wife had to wipe my ass, and while this was happening, I was just like, "This is the most degrading
Yeah.
thing I could think of is my wife is wiping my ass, like, what do I say to her now after this? Like, this is like I don't know what to do."
Yeah, exactly. It's
You
one
know,
of
and
those
she
things
was
where
like,
like
this is what has to be done." She's like, "Why are you upset about it?" She's like, "You can't do you're hurt." And I was like, "Yeah, but this is still
it
it
doesn't change that it's not
I don't feel like
embarrassing.
a man now." And then she's like, "No."
Dude, I hear you. I had to so many of those stories, even with my parents, right? I'm a grown ass adult. You know, my parents, my hands were completely bandaged. I couldn't do anything. So I had to pee. And luckily my crotch area was one of the only areas that wasn't burned. Really. It was like my feet and around my crotch. And like it was amazing. I'm very fortunate. I feel lucky about that. But like somebody had to help me take a piss. And it was still the most embarrassing things ever. And you know, but now I think it's kind of funny. It is what it is, but it just shows the extent people will go through when they care about you too. You know, it's like one of those things,
Yes,
you know, you'll do it for your
yes.
children. I don't have kids yet, but you know you'll do it for your children. But at some point, your kids might have to do it for you, or a nurse might have to do it for you. But it's like we had this crazy experience so young. And I don't know, how do you think that changes the way you look at just care and being an adult and all that kind of stuff?
It made me more open and not care what which, before this, I could care less really what people thought, but it was always in the back of your mind, like, you know, "Do you wanna do that? What are people gonna say? How are they gonna treat you?" kinda deal. And after going into the hospital and completely you're not humiliated.
Mhm.
They're not doing that to you, but you're so embarrassed that you're having to do these things like shit in a bed. Or I had
Yeah.
my head surgery,
Mhm.
getting out of my head surgery, I could not get up. I couldn't move because they took the lat muscle from my back. It was a 12-hour surgery, so they had me on my right side. So when I got out of that surgery, I couldn't move at all. Like I was like I couldn't push up on the bed.
Right.
And I finally told my nurse, which I had two male nurses. And I was like, "Hey, I need to sit up and get off the bed. My ass is numb. My back hurts." I was like, "I have to get up." And he was like, "Absolutely, dude. I got you." So him and another male nurse helped me. So I'm sitting up in bed right now. I have one guy on each side of me holding my arms, and they're like, "Do you want to stand?" I was like, "Yeah." So we stand up,
Yeah.
and I'm just shaking my head, and the one guy's like, "Yeah, what's wrong?" He's like, "You good?" And I'm like, "No, dude." I was like, "I'm standing in between 2 grown ass men while I'm butt naked."
Right, right.
And, you know, one guy, he started giggling, and I'm like, Right?" Like, I looked at him like, "You know what I'm talking about?" And he's like he leaned into me and he goes, Listen, man." He goes, "Listen." I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Just be thankful." I was like, "Thankful?" I was like, "Thankful for what, bro?" And he goes, "Thankful you this isn't prison and this is a hospital." And
Wow.
I started laughing so hard, I was like, "Okay, you're right, I'm thankful." He started we're all laughing, you know, and he's like,
Yeah.
"That better?" And I was like, "That was a good one, bro." I was like, "I needed that." I was like, "That was funny." But I think really with, you know, going through and putting yourself in that position to be so vulnerable, and then you have to do it so much in the hospital, I don't think people understand that, like, in the hospital, you just have to give in to everything because you have to do it. So once I got out of the hospital, like, to go to to go any doctor appointment to get looked at or something, if they're like, "Hey, you have to pull your pants down, we have to examine you here, or you have to get naked," or I'm like, "Yeah, okay," and I just strip down. They're like, You don't care? You want a gown?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure." And they're like
Yeah, if you got one, sure.
I'm
But
like, "Bro, I was in the hospital for a good minute, I think everyone has seen me naked in that hospital, so I could care less now." But I think that's what it just made me more comfortable being so open and not really giving a shit, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because in reality, you're alive.
Yeah, that's so true, man. I had so many. I can completely understand what you're saying because I was there too. I was poked and prodded and expected everywhere, right? It's like you can't hide. To your point about sitting up, like I had developed like a pressure wound on my tailbone, and like somebody had to come check that wound, all the time. So it'd like be up and my butt would be in the air, and somebody would be looking at it, make sure it was cleaned and like suck vac or whatever they called it. I don't remember, but basically to make sure it was all okay. Man, yeah, you're right. You just give in, and you don't really have a choice. You can fight them on it, but it's not going to help you. It's not going to make your life better.
Exactly, you just gotta do it. If you fight 'em, like you said, it's gonna be worse for you in the end.
Yeah. So, okay, we have so much to cover. I know we don't have a lot of time. Okay, where you are now, like you're doing these videos. When do you start posting? When do you start saying, I'm going to share this message? I'm going to start speaking. I want to start podcasting. I want to start like doing and using what I learned from this experience to kind of help others.
So what started everything was, like I said, I haven't been all happy. I know people see me happy on the internet, which for the most part nowadays I am happy. And I do like to joke and have a good time, but I say this on social media too, that, I'm not here to pretend that I was never depressed or went through that, because I
Right.
went through bad depression. I used to tell my wife all the time that I wish I would have died that day, because to go through what we've been through, the amount of pain mentally and physically, it would have been 100% easier if I would have just died. So I went through that, and I was so mad at life that I was 31 when this happened, and now I'm completely disfigured and just so mad at life that why this happened to me. Because before this, I was a raging alcoholic. I quit drinking. I had an amazing career. I
Yeah.
just bought a house. We just got married the year before. We just had a baby. I was doing everything right by the books as a man. I was providing. I wasn't drinking, not doing any drugs, nothing like that. Starting a complete life. And then it was all taken. And I was so mad at the world that my life was taken from me. For what reason? What did I do? It was really hard to wrap my head around, like, this just happened.
Yeah.
It's what it is. You had to go on with it. So Tiffany started pushing me to do social media, and she was like, "Why don't you get out there and start talking about your accident and your recovery, and it might help you to talk about it." And so I was like, "All right, I'll give it a shot." And like I said before to you, that I started doing it, and I was like, "This is stupid." I was like, "I'm talking to a camera. There's no one there.
Right.
This is the most awkward thing." I was like, "I don't like this." And she was like, "Oh, I know, it's really, really weird." So I started doing it more and more, and it started to take off. And TikTok really showed me a lot of love, a lot of support from everybody that followed me, which I appreciate everyone. And from there, I was like, okay, this is a lot different from where I thought it was going to go. So I continued to do that, continued to do it, and then I got a message one day, because doing social media gets tiring.
Yeah, I
How
know.
how how these influencers do it, like, every day, all day, is nuts.
It
We
is.
do it quite
Right.
often, and it takes a lot out on you.
Yeah. People don't think it's that hard, but it takes a lot of energy and time, and you have to think about what you want to say and what the message. Yeah, it's not hard work, but it's more work than you think it is.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
So I started having a lot of people reach out to me. I started getting messages, "Hey, I just wanna thank you for your story, it really inspiring," which I started hearing that, like, every day, so I'm like, "Alright, that's awesome." I'm happy that my story is inspiring others to move through their trauma or whatever they got going on in life.
Yeah.
Then one day I got a message and it really hit me hard to keep doing this and to really push it. And I had a guy on Instagram reach out to me and he said, I just want to tell you that I decided last night that the next day I was going to take my own life. And he said, well, when I woke up this morning, I was flipping through social media and found your story. And he goes, I've been looking at every video you have and you've inspired me to live.
Wow.
And I cried. I broke down and I cried because how did my story from my own trauma save somebody's life? And it really hit me. And it was like, this is why I'm here, is to really spread the word, that don't give up in life. And you can go through anything you really want to.
Right.
Just gotta
You
push yourself.
Yeah, yeah. It's not gonna be easy, but you can make it through if you just keep going. That's
Exactly.
incredible,
And
man. That's an incredible story.
so
Yeah.
then we started the apparel line, and we started doing the apparel line, and then Tiffany was like, joking around one day, we were talking, and she was like, "We should start a podcast." And I was like, "Oh, how fun would that be?" Like, that would be a fun time, right? Like, joking about it, and then we both were like, "You know what? I mean, we already do social media, why let's try it." So, we did, and Tiffany found the app for it and set it all up, and we started getting stuff off Amazon and started it, and it really was for blue collar men and women to give them a voice to explain why they get in the trades, what they do, why how it takes away from their families, and I wanted to give that out because I also wanted to and doing that made me feel like I was in the blue collar industry again, like I was
Yeah.
part of that world,
Mhm.
and it really helped me personally, and then it just blew up to I had people reach out or I reached out to people that have been injured on the job, off the job. We've had suicide attempts, we've had unique disabilities on there. I mean, I've had hands down the best guests ever. I've had the most
Yeah.
wonderful people,
Wow.
and I love all of them. And I still keep in contact with I would say like 80% of them. I'll message
Yeah.
here and there. We talk still, and it really is an amazing thing. People I don't know why everybody starts a podcast,
Mhm.
but after starting mine, it's a beautiful thing to do if you really need to vent your stuff, talk. If you want to connect with people, make friends, or give people their chance to shine. That's what my thing was. I wanted to give people that don't have a podcast, don't use social media a lot, give them the chance to get on and say whatever they want to the world about themselves.
Right.
And my recent thing now is I started public speaking about safety to companies, and I did a company in Arizona that called me and said, "Hey, we would love to have you. We seen you on social media. Would love to have you out." And we're like, "Oh my god, yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, we want you to speak for 6,000 employees." And I was like, 6,000 employees? I was like, "Pfft, I got that." I was like,
Nice, dude.
I got millions of views on my social media. I was like, so 6,000 people? I was like, we can do that. So in my
Nice.
mind, I was like, I got this. When we got there, he was like, "Hey, you're gonna have to do 3 different sessions because this doesn't hold 6,000 people." So we walked into the building and I was like, "This doesn't hold 6,000 people?" He's like, "No." I was like, "How many people is it ho It's massive."
Right,
And
right.
he's like, "It only holds about 2,000 at a time." And I was like, "Holy shit." So the first crowd came in, me and Tiffany looked at each other and I was like, "This is awesome." Like, this is way more people than, like, I really processed.
You were nervous though? At that moment, you were like, I don't know. All of a sudden, like before it's, yeah, I got this. And then, 2,000 people come into a room and you see all those eyes. You were like, huh, oh boy, I hope I can say words.
I won't say I was nervous, like I wanted to choke up. I was nervous that because since I had all that electricity run through my brain is not 100%. Yeah, I can sit here, talk and walk and move and have a conversation, but I've never been book smart, so I don't know big words. I sound like an idiot half the time. So then with a brain injury, now it's like, wow, he's really dumb. It's so I didn't my
You're
biggest
funny,
worry
bro.
was I didn't wanna fuck up with words and then be like, "What's this guy doing?"
Yeah.
Not that there was 6,000 people watching me, it was like, "Don't mess up your words and look like an idiot."
Right, which I think some people would be nervous about, but it just seems like another thing you were like, "Ah, whatever, I gotta get through it. Let's do this."
Yeah, I mean, here it's in Arizona. We flew from Florida to Arizona. We're here, we're in the building. That's it. There's no going back. You can't just be like, "Well, you know what? I don't feel like doing this," and walk out. No, dude, you gotta go through with it now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what it was, and, we did it, and it was the most humbling, amazing experience of my life, I would say.
Wow.
And it's because while telling my story with 2,000 people at a time, all 3 sessions, and the owner of the company or the main person of the company, they actually, told us afterwards that they have never in the years of doing meetings, public speakers, everything, they've never had one time where you could hear a pin drop. It was dead silent, and
Wow.
everybody was focused on me, and as I'm talking and telling my story, you're looking out in a crowd of men and women, blue collar men and women, they're not sensitive, they're not weak people. These are people that work with their hands, get beat up all day. So you got some tough people out there, and I'm watching these men, these full grown big ass men. There was a table in front of me, and I pointed them right out too because I was like, I bet you guys ride Harleys because I ride.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they had these big beards, big fucking burly guys. And as I'm telling my story, they're crying.
Wow.
And I just look down and I'm looking at the guys, and these big men are looking at me with tears rolling down their face. And I'm like, holy shit, like my story is making these men cry. So I did that. And then after I got done my story and done the speaking, I walked down off the stage and I tried to shake as many hands as possible. And I had multiple guys come up to me crying, shake my hand, hugs,
Mhm.
how I changed their life, how they're thinking about safety now, they don't want to put this on their families. And so it was an amazing thing to see that it really hit home to a lot of guys and women to hopefully stay as safe as possible, and to always be around, aware of your surroundings.
Man, that's such an incredible message. You're one of a kind. I mean, truthfully, not only am I jealous of how you were able to handle all the pain and get through all of it, but the way you've able to turn this pain into something that helps people and makes them feel seen and connected, and you're really just trying to keep people safe is nothing short of incredible. Quickly again, so we got blue collar apparel, we've got the podcast, and you're speaking now, right?
Yep.
Right on, man. That is tremendous. I got a few last questions for you before you go. Something I ask everybody because I'm just so curious. What gives you the most peace currently in your life?
Fishing.
Fishing. Right
I
on.
absolutely love to fish. I think that, and I actually looked it up because I was asking myself one day, I was like, man, I feel so much different, so much more different when I'm at the water.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and the facts that the everyday person, if you're in front of a water way, the ocean, a lake,
Mhm.
your stress levels come way down.
Wow. That's amazing. Dude, it's amazing you said that. Me and my wife walk around a lake on Sundays, and I was like, what is the deal? Like, why do us as people just want to be around water? And we just do these and it just attracts you.
Yep. And so I did. I looked it up, and the studies say that if you're having a bad day, walk next to a lake. Go walk, sit in front of somewhere that's water and a nice view, and it relaxes you.
That's
So I do a
amazing.
lot of fishing, and I'm always near the water, and I love to fish. So that's my decompress, chill out time. Other than that, I can't ride anymore. I don't ride my Harley anymore because I have a hole in my head.
Right,
So
right, right. Yeah, maybe
it's
not chance it there. That
not very safe. So I don't do that anymore. But yeah, it's fishing, hanging out with my kids, and it's kind of it.
That's amazing, man. All right, last question. I feel like you kind of answered it on the last one, but I'll ask it anyway. If somebody else is going through their lowest moment, their darkest time, their burn survivor moment, what would be one piece of advice that you would give them to help them get through that?
My advice, I want everybody to understand that even if you're going through trauma, traumatic experience right now, you're going through pain. that it's not forever. It definitely is not forever. It also isn't tomorrow is gonna be done with. I mean, it takes time.
Yep.
Definitely recovery takes a lot of time, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you just push and push and push, you will get out of it. And for getting through it, you have to remember there's only one way to go, and that's forward. You can't stay in the present and you can't go in the past. So you just have to go forward and just don't let anything stop you. Don't let people put you down. Do you. Do what is going to benefit you in the end and make you happy. Don't care what other people say. If you have scars all over your body, that is something that you've been through personally and you have succeeded. You've beaten it. You are on the other side. Accept it. Accept who you are as a person, what you look like, and just be happy with yourself. And that's what I push on my social media is people ask me all the time, "You walk around with all those scars on your face. Do people make fun of you out in public?" If they do, they ain't never said it to my face. I put money on you ain't gonna say it to my face.
Right, right.
You know, you point and laugh all you want, but I'm gonna walk by you and have a good day with my day because I don't care what you say. That's it. It's you. You've if you have gone through what me or you have been through the hospital, all that pain mentally and physically, and you come out with scars, why be upset about your scars? Those are your battle wounds. That is what you've been through. It shows people how strong you really are.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. Just be happy. Live life as the best you can because tomorrow is not promised. And we know this for a fact. I tell you right now, what is promised is death. We all die.
Man, that's inspiring as hell, John. Thank you. That's incredible. I feel like I need to start wearing more short sleeve shirts or something. But you've been amazing. Thanks so much for your time. We're gonna make sure everybody has all the links to all of your socials and all the projects you're doing. You're an incredible guy. So happy we got to sit down and chat. Thanks so much
I
for
do
your
have to
time,
tell
man.
you one thing though.
Sure, sure.
I have done now in my podcast, I've done a lot of guests. I've had amazing people. I've also done quite a few interviews. I just did a radio station in New Zealand.
Dang, that's awesome. Yes.
I've done these interviews and stuff, and I always have a great time. I've loved every person I've talked to so far, but I got to tell you, Thomas, this interview has probably been one of my favorite interviews I've had.
Wow.
And I think it's
Thank you.
because how comfortable I can sit here and talk with you because you can relate and I can relate with you. And
Yeah.
I want to definitely thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh
It has
man.
been an honor.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, right back at you. We'll definitely do this more in the future. You
Oh,
got,
absolutely.
yeah, friend, fan for life. Man, right back at you. You're incredible, man. Thank you so much. And we'll be talking soon.
All right, man. Thank you for having me on again. It was awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Sick Burn Podcast. It was a privilege to have John Pendleton with us, sharing his powerful journey from a life-altering accident to a source of inspiration and hope. His story beautifully illustrates how resilience and determination can lead to profound personal growth and impact, even through life's toughest challenges. If you enjoyed our conversation, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, which we greatly appreciate, and share this episode with someone who could use some inspiration. Follow us on all our social media channels at SickBurnPod to stay up to date on upcoming episodes, weekly inspiration, and behind the scenes content. Join us next time as we continue to explore more incredible stories of overcoming adversity and finding the bright side of life's darkest moments. Aloha.